Hey everyone, welcome to our webinar today. Feel free to jump in the chat. Tell us what you're having for lunch. Let's skip the whole where are you from? Tell us what you're eating for lunch while you're on the webinar. Salad with chicken. Oh, Catherine, you're so healthy. Good for you. Nobody's going to write Big Mac and fries now, are they?
Yeah, right. Chili dog.
All right. So I think everybody from the waiting room has come in, and I know there's always people who sort of, uh, hi, Suzanne and Dave. People will sort of trickle in as they kind of get settled in for lunch. Maybe they have to microwave their food and make it hot. Hi, Adele. All right. And I want to give you as much time as possible because I know you're going to get us working and thinking. Welcome, everyone, to our webinar for March. Today is Wednesday, March the 20th. Thank you so much for joining us. I am really excited to bring you our speaker today. His name is Alex, and for those of you who don't know him, he is fantastic, and he is going to help us write our story, share our how we got started in real estate and what our values and our integrity and our mission are. But I'm going to let Alex get into that in just a minute. So I'm going to do a quick introduction here. First, I am required to put up my disclaimer saying that it is really, really, really important that you as a real estate investor do your own research. Never count on anybody else's opinion or thoughts or anything else like that. Before you do anything in real estate, you always want to make sure that you do your proper due diligence and trust but verify. Just in case you slept through the last 4 years of COVID and don't know how a webinar works, just a quick reminder, this is a Zoom webinar, which means that there is a separate Q&A tab. So if you look at the bottom of your screen right here, you are going to see that there is one tab for chat and then one for Q&A. I like to use the Q&A in the webinars because it means that your questions don't get lost. So if you have questions for Alex, please go and put them in the Q&A tab, and then we'll have time to address them at the end. And if you would like to participate in the chat or Alex asks a question, because I know Alex likes to keep things really interactive, please use the chat tab, which is the one that looks like this, and then make sure you go to the drop down and you click everyone, because I think it defaults to hosts and panelists, which means that only Alex and I get to see your insight and your pearls of wisdom that you're sharing, and we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to benefit from your shared thoughts. Our agenda today, super quick. We're going to do quick introductions. Alex is going to host the interactive story arc workshop. Then we're going to do audience questions at the end, and I'll be back for just the last 2 minutes or so to wrap everything up and share our contact info. And I think Alex has a really exciting offer to share with us today as well. If you are new to my webinar series, my name is Elizabeth Kelly. I have been a real estate investor for almost 20 years. I'm also a coach, and I specialize in helping people who are feeling stuck, people who are feeling overwhelmed, or people who don't know how or where to get started in real estate. I have been all of those things and in all of those places, and I love sharing my insights and experience to help people move forward towards their financial freedom and on their investment journeys. And we are so lucky to have Alex with us today. And I'm going to read his bio because I know Alex chose all the words very carefully as part of his story. And I think it's so amazing to have someone like Alex in our space because it's not as common as you would normally see. So Alex always wanted to tell stories, just like his mom, who was an actress, and his dad, who is a photographer. He thought that meant he would be an actor too, but at 17 years old, someone gave him the chance to speak on a stage to a group of teens, and it lit a spark within him. Alex believes lasting impact always starts with your story. With the StoryArc method, Alex coaches international speakers, best-selling authors, millionaire founders, and hundreds of business owners around the world to stand out with their signature story and speak with confidence. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it is such a pleasure to be here. It is so exciting, and I just can't wait for where we're gonna go and how to get into this and what everyone is gonna uncover in the magic of today. So thank you for having me, Elizabeth.
It's our pleasure. I'm going to hop off. I'll be here on camera, but I'm going to hop off the microphone and take it away. Welcome everyone who's just jumping in. You're in for a treat today.
Brilliant. Excellent. Okay, here's the big intro and the starting sort of my disclaimer is as we get into this, here I love an active chat. Just as Elizabeth said, absolutely. I love it when people are active in there. So anything that you're receiving, if there's something that like, oh, I should write that down, or something makes you feel something, just really feel anything at all. If something makes you breathe a little differently, make you just go, ooh, whether it's something I say or something someone else says as we get more interactive with this, then there's two ways that you can interact with that and let us know in the chat because we're not live. I love being live in a room and you get to hear the oohs and the ahs and see the movements and the head nods, but we don't get to see that. So you can either type in the chat the thing that I said or the thing that someone else said that actually made you stand out. Just actually write the quotes so that we can also see that. And we're like, yeah, that was good. Or you just write the word magic. All right. If you write the word magic, I'm going to feel like that is like you saying, ooh, if we were alive in person. Like there's something that just stood out that makes you go like, that's magic right there because there is something magical about this. And especially when we get into sharing stories, there is something so deeply connecting to our hearts to each other that is magic. It is beyond what we can explain. And so if something connects with you today, then you type the word magic, we can all see that you're feeling something and we'll know that we're also feeling something as well. We're not in this alone. So I love this and I'm ready to get into it. And I hope that you are as well. Because if you're like me, which I assume you are if you're showing up to something like this, then you want to make lasting impact in this world with the work that you do and the people around you. That's an easy one, right? That's a softball. Of course, we want to do that. But things get tricky when we get kind of lost, I find, in how we're doing that. We get lost in the how we're going to accomplish that. And we lose sight of what it is that we're uniquely here to do. And more importantly, my friends, why you care about doing it at all. So, whatever your work is, and I know that a lot of us are very similar in the room today in the work that you do, but the why is always unique to who you are. And I know this because I am your storytelling and speaking coach, and I help business owners around the world to clarify your story so you can speak with confidence and truly stand out from the crowd. And I believe this next statement I'm about to show you with all of my heart. I need to get this tattooed on my body somewhere because I say it all the time. It is that lasting impact always starts with a clear story. And I could zone that in even more and say it always starts with your story. Lasting impact always starts with your story. And this began for me when I knew I was clear. It was clear to me that I would be in a position like this, sharing my thoughts for an audience, helping you transform since I was in the second grade. And my mother, the actress, bless her heart, put me on stage in a production that she was producing for the school. I think the play was Cinderella, but somehow she worked in a teddy bear scene so she could put me on stage in an outfit that she made for me for Halloween. And something clicked for me in the warmth of that wool costume and those lights that I knew I needed to do this. And a few years later, I was 12 years old, and I would remember sitting backstage while my mom was going out on stage, and I was sitting there so quietly. And I heard her go out on stage and deliver her line with power and bravado with this deep British voice that she had. And then the audience responded in the most magical way. They laughed. It's something that I'm still hoping to receive from an audience in my life, but it'll come one day. But in that moment, something clicked for me. I thought, what kind of magic is this? That with just our words, we can help transform people's feelings. We can help them feel more alive. We can help them leave differently than they came in here. I want to be a part of that magic. And so for the next 20 years or so, I mean, I leaned into that as an actor. I tried to get on as many stages as I could. And then as a speaker and a pastor, I got on stage weekly practicing this skill for rooms of 6 people or 600 people. And yet there was always this nagging disconnect. And maybe you felt this as you try to put yourself out there and connect with your audience, wherever they may be. It's this confusion that I feel like I'm doing everything that I should do. I'm using my gifts, I'm speaking, I'm doing the thing, and yet the audience isn't responding the way I think they should. Have you felt that before? If you felt that confusion, that disconnect from your audience, just type yes in the chat if you're feeling that. I know we are. And that all shifted for me about 4 years ago when I stepped into my first business mastermind, an entrepreneur's mastermind. And I had this new business idea and I had thought that this was going to make me millions of dollars, but I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to build a business. And I step into this room and it was a big investment for me. And there were all these perfect entrepreneurs in the room. You've been to events like this where you look around and you're like, everybody else is more successful than me. Everybody else has it figured out. Everybody else is beautiful. And I'm just a slob. I mean, literally in that room, they looked perfect. They had hats on inside, sunglasses, heels, and I was wearing joggers, as you can see in this picture, and a sweaty t-shirt because I spent my morning riding a scooter around West Hollywood. I did not feel like I belonged in this room of perfect entrepreneurs. And then it was a chance to introduce ourselves. And they went alphabetically. Cool. Street, last name. I'm going to be down on the list. Oh, they went alphabetically by first name. Shoot. Alex is first up to bat. So I grabbed the microphone and I'm supposed to tell them about my business and my goals and where I'm going with this and my strategy. And of course I didn't. I told them about my dreams and my hopes and my family. I told them about my story for 86 seconds. And then I went and I sat down next to one of those perfect entrepreneurs again, feeling like a failure, feeling like I missed the mark again. I'd created this disconnect until she leaned over to me. And she looked like Katy Perry. Her name was Lauren, but she looked just like Katy Perry, these big Katy Perry eyes and perfect face. And she leaned over and said, "You need to teach us to speak like you do. Your storytelling is your superpower. You need to roar." That last part was Katy Perry, but the rest of it was actually Lauren. And something became so clear for me that the thing that comes easy for me is the thing that I can teach to others. It's like all the secret to my clear branding, my clear messaging, my clear business and growth was all found in my story. And here's a picture of me just 4 years later, earlier this year, showing up at that same mastermind, now leading a workshop for that group of people with my own clear brand and messaging that has developed since that moment. Because the more clear that I have been now in my messaging, in understanding how my story is the foundation for everything that I want to do in this world, the more clearly I'm showing up and teaching this to others and sharing it now through my book as well and in webinars like this and helping hundreds of business owners around the world, just like these lovely people, do exactly the same thing. I went from confusion to clarity. And today, I want to help you transform in that same way. Because when you are clear in that story that you have in your journey, your own personal signature transformation story, it provides confidence. It brings confidence to step into a room and not feel like you're small, not feel like you don't belong, but step in and know exactly what you're bringing to the world. And when you have that kind of confidence, your audience finds you. Your ideal audience will be attracted to that clear and confident energy. And then they'll want to be helped by you. And once they're helped by you, well, then they're going to go and want to talk about you. And that builds this reputation that you're proud of. And referrals then come out the wazoo, which leads to more sales and impact than ever before. That's why I say lasting impact always starts with your story. And thankfully, finding that story is more simple than any of us think, which is important because people buy from people, and we all know that. But more importantly than that, people buy transformation. And so that's why I'm not going to talk about standing out today with your strategies, standing out with your strategic business plan or marketing techniques. I want to help you stand out with your story using, as the title of this workshop says, the storyteller's edge to truly stand out. in this world. And if you're excited about diving into that and finding out how we're going to do that, then just write the word story in the chat now, because we are going to get into the goodness of actually unpacking and clarifying your story. I love this. I love to see your excitement here. Let's get into it, because I know that there are these barriers that are getting in the way of you actually doing this work, of you actually showing up and letting your story lead. Because you think, if they really knew me, I mean, I want to talk about my business. If they really knew me, they won't like me. Or maybe you hear the word story, your story, and you're like, my story's too big. Like, my story's too complicated. My story, okay, Alex, I get it. You're good at that. But look, my story, oh, you wouldn't believe what I've been through, honey. There's no way that I can do that. Or it's just too close to home. And so I don't think that I can share that. Or you think, what does it actually have to do with my business? I mean, look, I'm dealing with money. I'm dealing with investors. I'm dealing with paperwork. Like, what does my story have to do with actually moving my business forwards? Ultimately, I'm confused. And these are all good problems. I get that. These are things that we feel. But I think what's really below the surface here is some deeper problems that we're really dealing with in our businesses. And I want you to type in the chat which one of these numbers really feels like it hits most closely to home for the problem that you're feeling in your business right now. One, I'm actually unsure how to talk about myself in a room. Two, my messaging is just unclear. It's confusing, admittedly. I don't know how to talk about myself. I don't know how to talk about the brand. Three, I know that my audience is confused, because if I asked three people, they would tell me three different things that I do, and people aren't buying from me. So they must be confused, because a confused audience doesn't buy. Four, maybe I'm just feeling like progress is really slowing down. There's slow growth. There's no referrals. Everything's just sort of fading and becoming slower. Or number five, look, truth is, bottom line, sales, and I feel like my impact is fading. Which one of those five things, just type a number in the chat, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, do you feel like hits most closely to the problem that you and your business are really dealing with right now? Unsure how to talk about myself. I love this. Look at all those problems. Oof. Which is a funny thing to say. Yeah, that's all right. Peter's just like, just 1 through 5. Come on, let's just deal with it. I feel, yeah, this is it. That's why we're going to get into this, because I think ultimately what we're really dealing with here is it all comes back to your story. I mean, that's my bias, but I know that you'll be convinced by that in a few minutes as well, is that all of those problems can be clarified by understanding your story. Because your story leads to sales, your story leads to growth and referrals, your story leads to an attracted audience, your story leads to clear messaging, and your story allows you to talk about yourself. So once we clarify your story, you're golden. So really the question is, what in the world is my story? And that is where my very favorite friend enters the picture. This is the Transformation StoryArc. This is what I based my book off of, as I'm getting to here. This is the story arc. This is everything. I see this in my dreams, I tell you what. And this arc is going to help you clarify your signature story so that you can create a lasting impact. So if you've got a notebook right now, this is a great time to take out that pen and actually draw this on that piece of paper. Just draw a nice little arc right here with 2 slices, like you got 3 slices of a pie with an arrow along the bottom. And then just above the arc, you can write these words, who I was. You can just write what happened to make me who I am. And then you've got from and to along the bottom. So if you've got that written, then you are golden and ready to go through this. What I'm going to do right now is actually walk you through the process of unpacking each element of this story. And then I think Elizabeth has been so willing to be a participant today that I'm going to coach her through this process as well, so you can see just how simply that works. Are you still good for that, Elizabeth? You feeling ready to rock? Yeah, she's excited. Excellent. So first, let's just start to unpack this, because we are going to start your story at the very end. Unlike what Julie Andrews would say, that the beginning is a very good place to start, we are actually going to start with the now. Because here's the first tip. If you want to be a captivating storyteller now, then you should actually start your story with the now. Start with the end. There's something that happens when we do this, that we show up, and when you say, this is the end of the story, as far as I know the story, this is who I am, that you actually give the audience a lot of trust as you go back in the story, because they know that there's a clear end point to where we're going. Now, that's for the audience, but also for you to actually stand up here and declare, this is who I am, gives you a lot of trust and gives you a lot of understanding and say, yeah, actually, this is who I am right now. And no matter what's happened in my life, this is actually who I am. No matter how I feel today, this is who I am. And this is what I can do. And that's why we start at this point in the story. So here's some simple questions that I want you to ask yourself so that you can clarify the who I am, the end part of this story. You want to ask yourself this question really clearly. What do you do? I mean, don't get complicated with this. Just ask yourself, what is my role? Real estate investor. I'm a storytelling and speaking coach. What's your role? Just make it something simple. Just claim that, own it, and get into it. Don't make it too complicated, because this is where the complicated part's going to come in a little bit. This is where we get into more of an emotional response here. What's the impact you're making? What do you do, and what impact do you make? And here's a maybe more simple way to really zone in. What is that impact? Ask yourself this question. How do you want people to feel when they're done working with you? So they might walk away with some sort of results. They're going to have more money. They're going to have a new home. They're going to have, a larger portfolio. But how are they going to feel when all of that happens? That word that you care about, that word that you really want them to feel, that is going to be absolutely critical to this. Because that's talking about other people. But what I believe is the way that you want other people to feel at this end result is so closely tied to how you actually feel in your bones. So earlier, I told you, right, in my story, I started by saying, I'm Alex, your storytelling and speaking coach. That's what I do, helping you clarify your story so you can speak with confidence. So what do I want you to feel? Clear and confident. And if I could pick one of those, it's clear. Now, why do I want that? Because that is the thing that I have been striving for my entire life, clarity. And that's the end of this story. That's how I show up to you right now. And that's how we figure out the who I am. So some simple questions there that will be profoundly important. And if you've got questions about any of this and how to really clarify that, then we can open that up in the Q&A. So get those questions going. If you've got any clarifying questions, know that clarity for you will bring clarity for others. So don't be afraid to ask the question here. Now, if I say that, then I can go back in the story, because someone's going to say, wow, that's amazing. How did you get here? I'd love to tell you how I got here. Let me tell you about who I was. And this is where you can go back in the story. And I would say you go back before the before. So many of us want to go back to the transformative moment. And I would say, just at least for this exercise, let's go back before the transformative moment that you're thinking of, before the moment when you quit the job, before the moment when the accident happened. Who were you early on? So I want you to go back, and the way you're actually going to filter this through is asking this question. Where did that feeling, that impact feeling that you just wrote about who I am? So for me, that was clear or confident. Where did that first show up for you? Where do you remember that showing up in your life? Like as a kid, as a teenager, when you remember feeling that, right? I told you it was clear to me that I would be in this position since the second grade. That was clear. I knew exactly what I wanted to do since I was 7 years old. But then here's the key. We want to ask what or who got in the way of you living that. This is the barrier. This is the bad guy in the story. This is the Darth Vader, the villain, the Sauron, the Voldemort. This is the thing that gets in the way of you, the hero, actually living out that dream, that desire that you had at the beginning. And that barrier is the key. See, for me, I said in my story, ultimately, it was clear that I would be here, but confusion got in the way. I was giving my audience everything that I thought they wanted, but they weren't responding, and I was confused. Confusion is how I felt, and that got in the way of clarity. So the mostly what we're looking for here in the who I was section, I'm looking for a couple of details about who you were, but most importantly, I want a word, just like you did with who I am, a word that describes how you felt then. I felt confused, and now I already know I feel clear. So I've already got a transformation story cooking here. So go back and zone in. And if you're having trouble in this, one way to answer this is to say, well, what's the feeling that I felt today when I felt stuck? Because the story you lived through is the story you're living through. So if you're looking back and you're like, I don't know how I felt when I was 9 years, I don't know how I felt. What was the barrier in my way? Well, just look at what was the barrier this week for you. What's gotten in the way of you actually fulfilling your goal this week? Because that's going to be a really good clue and an indicator of something that you've been facing all your life. Okay. That's who I was. And then your audience is going to say, wow, that's incredible. You felt that way. Well, what happened to get you here? And you're going to lean in and say, it's an amazing story. Let me tell you about this. But what happened, this middle slice of the story, this is the climax. This is the triumphant moment, the turning point. And this, honestly, is where most people get stuck. This is where most people just absolutely come to a halt, because if you're like many of my clients, you think you have to have some sort of like superhero explosive moment that transformed you, something dynamic, something wild, something nobody's ever heard of before. But the good news is that's not what we want to hear. As an audience, we might be intrigued by that, interested, but we're going to relate to you when you tell us about a moment that transformed you, not necessarily the moment. So when you're looking for this, look for a moment that shifted things for you, not the moment. Don't get stuck looking for the defining moment of your life, because that might be a really difficult thing to do. And when you're doing that, you're going to feel bad about the other things that you're letting slide. But when you're looking for a moment, you realize that there's been so many that you can pick from. And that should actually empower you to say, oh, I can tell this story. And then you just want to say, okay, well, who was there? Who was involved in that moment? And then you get to unpack that a little bit. And as the audience is interested, you get to go into more and more detail on that if you want to. And ultimately, you're going to say, this is what I learned from that experience. So the key for this, what happened, I hope you're seeing this, that this is actually, of all these parts, the least important of it all. This is the least important detail in your story that you actually share with the world. And you're going to understand that more in just a second. But when I told you my story, I mean, I zoned in on a seemingly insignificant comment that Katy Perry said to me, Lauren, that she's absolutely forgotten about by this point. I know, because I've asked her. But for me, provided such clarity on the path that I should go down. It was a small moment, but it changed everything for me. This means basically when you're looking for your story and what story to tell, it's less about the plane crash that you survived and more about the podcast that you were listening to while you were waiting for that plane to board. That's going to be the part that actually we are most relating to. That's going to be the part that really stands out to us. That's going to feel like the most authentic change in you. Now, you can tell the plane crash story and how you survived, but what I'm interested in is actually how this podcast you listen to empowered you to live in your resourcefulness, to lean into that. So that when the plane crash happened, you didn't feel restricted, but you felt resourceful. That's the transformative moment that we want you to pull out. Because ultimately, this is about transformation. And that's why that middle moment matters less than the end pieces, because when you zone in on this, when you can clarify your transformation, you are going to zone in on what emotional words explain how I felt then and how I feel now. And your transformation, your big life transformation, can be zoned down to as simple as 2 words: from confusion to clarity. I wonder what yours is. Because when you zone in and you do this story in this way, you actually not only open up this 3-part story that has all these relatable moments, but you clarify your transformation. And the more clear you are in your transformation, the more clearly people will know exactly what it is that they're going to get from you, which is so important because, as I said earlier, people buy from people. But not only that, people buy transformation. This means that people are not buying the products or the services that you're selling. They're buying how those products or services will change their circumstances. So the more clearly that you can define how your work transforms someone's life, the more clearly they will lean in and say, you have what I want. That's why we talk about a soothing latte, or therapy that helps you go from fear to empowerment, or investments that go from scattered to secure, or storytelling structure that goes from confusion to clarity. It's the transformation that we're looking for. And when you do this, I mean, let me be like Katy Perry to lean in and say to you that you already have everything you need to make your lasting impact in this world, because it is as close to you as your lived experience and your story that you have lived through. So go make your lasting impact in this world. Start with your story. Now, to show you what that looks like, that whole arc, that all those pieces, all those questions, I want to show you just how easy it is to unpack this and do this work. I love the chat. I love the interest here. I love the engagement. You guys are receiving this. You're fantastic. Elizabeth, you still here? You ready to
I
go?
am still here. I've been frantically taking notes and writing down my thoughts in addition to trying to match up your structure.
Amazing. Okay, so what I'd love to do, because this is what I do normally with people, I do one-on-one coaching, and typically we'll walk through this process over like a larger coaching time together. But something I love to do in my webinars and workshops is take someone through this process to help you see your story broken down into its simple form. Is it okay if I take you through that process?
Absolutely. Would it be would it be crazy if I asked people if they were comfortable, like while you're asking me and I'm sharing mine, if they would share theirs in the chat too? Is that okay?
Absolutely. I am so open for that. I knew you knew I would be okay with that, but it's good.
Okay, good. So if you are comfortable, I would love to hear. If you are comfortable, I'd absolutely love to hear what you wrote down as we're working through the process.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to walk Elizabeth through that same process that I just showed you, and then I'm going to ask her a lot of those same questions. And Elizabeth, for the sake of now, I'm going to interrupt you at times. I'm going to say, all right, now zone that in, and then we'll get to some sort of end process and end picture here that makes it look good.
I trust you.
Excellent. Good stuff. You're right on, Bruce. I see that comment. You're going to have to hit this replay up again so you can walk through this. But I'm glad you're here. So, Elizabeth, let's get to this. Let's start with the who I am. So, what do you do?
I'm a real estate investor, a coach, business owner, entrepreneur, speaker.
Brilliant. Which one of those, I mean, would you put on a name tag? If you were, I guess it depends on the room you're in, maybe. Is that right?
Yeah, it probably does. If you asked my favorite hat to wear, it's probably coach.
Okay, brilliant. So here I am, and specifically a coach, like what kind of a coach? What would be the caveat that you put on that?
A real estate and entrepreneur
Yeah,
coach, business
cool. All right.
coach.
Business coach. I mean, that's a simple way to put that. I know you're like, I don't want that hat. I don't want business coach, but you zone in specifically real estate coach. Okay.
Mhm.
And the next question is then, okay, so how do people feel after you help them, after they're done coaching with you?
They
What
feel
are the feelings that
confident.
show up?
They
Yep.
feel confident, empowered, excited. They have a lot more clarity.
Mm-hmm. Excited, clarity. Let's go. I just want to zone in on empowered a little bit. Empowered to do what? Like, what does that empowerment look like for them?
To take action. They are no longer sitting in overwhelm, in
Mm,
fear, in uncertainty.
Yeah. So they're able to take, is that like bold action? Like, or like just the thing that they've been waiting on, the thing that they've been sitting on? Like, what's the action that they take? It's whatever action they need to take. What does that look like?
Yeah, and for some people, it's doing their first deal, and for other people, it's doing their next deal.
Yeah.
Um, and what that right next step is different. When I work with people who already have portfolios, sometimes that right next step is actually selling a property that's not serving them and that's
Yeah.
holding them back from being able to get more mortgages, or that's it's got locked in equity that they could buy two properties with that money. And
Mm-hmm.
then for other people, it's literally just starting to put in offers
Yeah.
because they're afraid that they don't know what will happen if they get an offer accepted, and they don't know what to do with it if it happens.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. It's such a universal feeling. This is the thing. All those things you're like, yeah, you're talking about real estate. Oh, you're also talking about like every like entrepreneur out there. So
Yeah.
I understand the different hats that you're wearing then. So okay, if there's one word over here that most closely defines how you feel, because we've been talking about your clients, but how do you feel as you step forward, you host a webinar like this, like you are in your zone, when you're in your very best, what's the word that you would say? This is how I feel.
Um, I
And it
feel
might be one of these,
confident,
it might be
empowered.
something else.
No, I sort of go between feeling confident and empowered and excited. Like a lot of times when I wake up in the morning now, I'm excited.
Mhm.
I remember waking up in the morning and thinking, "Oh, do I have to get out of bed? Like, what do I have to do today?"
Yeah.
And now I'm excited. Now I want to see people transform. I want to see people move forward and take action. And when you see those light bulb moments go off for people, it just, but I
I mean,
guess,
does it feel like I so this is interesting because I put the word action up here, and action isn't a feeling, right? But it's like I know what that feels like to take action. It's opened up
mhm,
all kinds of other feelings that you got into. So
mhm,
it's almost like that. Like you wake up and you're like, I'm gonna take action today. Like, is there something about
yeah.
that? There's like this excitement, but it's like I'm excited to do what I'm here to do today.
You know what an interesting sort of byproduct of all of this is just gratitude. I just feel grateful for the people and for my experiences. And I remember who I was like 15 years ago,
Yeah.
and I was a bit of a victim. I was a little bit negative. I was a little
Mm.
bit like the world is happening to me.
Hmm.
And now I just see the opportunity in everything.
Ooh, that okay. So that just zoned in for me. It's that, right? You're zoning into this point of like, oh, now I see what it is. I just see opportunity everywhere.
Mhm.
But that wasn't always the way.
No.
Could we lock in on that word? That might not be the word that you live with for the rest of your life, but for the sake of today, is
Yeah.
opportunity okay? Does that
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
like
I
that
like it.
aligns to you? Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
then I
everybody's
would
saying
say,
such nice things.
yeah, these people love you. This is fantastic. Um, so then to go back, that's who I am. Hi, I'm a real estate coach and helping you see the opportunity in everything. Right. Then we go back and say, well, that just clicked for you, didn't it?
Yeah.
Um, then I would say, great, let's go back in the story and say, where did that begin? Like, was that now you fed me some words already here that are fantastic, but I would say, was it always that way? Did you always see opportunity when you were growing up, when you were in school, when you were doing your
No.
early jobs? What was in the way of that?
Um, because I was always trying to fit in.
Yeah.
I was always trying to like be the perfect employee, or just the perfect whatever was needed in the situation.
Mm. Um, and then that leads to these you said all these feelings. You said these about your clients, but are these the same that come with that? Is like when I'm trying to be perfect, I feel overwhelmed, I feel uncertain, I feel fearful. Is
Yeah.
it like
Yeah.
describe
I
that
just,
feeling to me when you were trying to be perfect in all those situations? What came with that?
I just played small.
Mm.
It's like It's like if you've ever watched a dog run and they kind of like they have a different gait when they're just going slowly, they're just kind of loping around the yard. But when you take the leash off, that moment where they realize that they can go as fast and as far as they want, that's like the transition point when they hit that full stride.
That's brilliant. I just put dog off leash. Like, I just love what you just did there, because in a small way, just as a presenter, I'm just going to time out from your story here for a second and just let everyone see that what was happening. We're in this mode of like talking about the thing, and then you just painted a picture of the
Mhm.
thing that for everyone listening, if you're engaged in this, your brain just went off exploding, visually seeing that dog at the dog park get off its leash and just run wild. And you know exactly what that feeling is, not only for the dog, but for you. And so, Elizabeth, when you just said that example, everyone then sits here and goes, oh, I know that feeling too. I want that feeling. Oh my God. If this is what she feels, this is what she offers. I need to be in her space. I need to get to know her more. I need to see how she can help me feel that as well. So there's such a small picture, not even really a story, as it were, but definitely a moment that we can imagine and we can say, I know that feeling. Peter, the Jack Russell feeling. Exactly. That's it. Suzanne's in, she wants that feeling, right? So you're like, what is that freedom? What does that feel like? You nailed it, as opposed to playing small, right?
Yeah.
So is small okay if we land on that over here from
Yeah.
all these words?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So then I say, okay, you lived a life of trying to fit in, trying to be perfect, whether it's high school, it's your first job, it's your sixth job, you're living that life. What shifted things? What's a moment that stands out to you that was like, until then, I was playing small until this happened? What shows up to you as a moment that kind of shifted things?
Um, well, I just got to the point where I cared less about what people thought and more about what I thought.
How
But
long ago
if
was
I,
that, would you say?
it's been an evolution.
Yeah.
So it started 2014
Yeah.
when, and I've shared a little bit about this, but I had an employee who stole a lot of money from us. And I kept thinking there was something wrong, and I didn't have the numbers concrete down yet to back it up, but I knew there was something wrong. And it was when my intuition really spoke to me.
Right.
And that was the first time where I was like, I'm going to listen to my intuition versus what everybody else is telling me. And I ended up being right. That was the first time.
And then was
And
there
then,
more beyond that? Yeah. So that sort of opened a door
yeah.
that then made you curious to say, ooh, what else is in there
Hey,
to be discovered?
what else is going on that I have intentionally ignored for years? What else is my intuition telling me?
Mm. And where did that lead you beyond that?
Um, well, it led to me
Opportunities,
digging,
business kind of, yeah.
yeah, digging more into my business and becoming more involved in kind of like the day-to-day financials because I'd always told myself I wasn't a numbers person.
Mm,
So the idea of, being an entrepreneur and running the financials on a company, I'd always kind of left that to my husband.
hmm
And then there was a moment at Multifamily Conference a couple of years ago. Kevin O'Leary was on stage and he was talking about um, his first job and how he was being asked to do things. He was only 16 and he was being asked to do things that he could not bring himself to do. And he realized in that moment he wasn't destined to work for anyone else. He was destined to be an entrepreneur. And there was
mm,
just something that clicked for me. And like all those times when I had worked and I had disagreed with the decisions that were being made, or I had felt uncomfortable ethically from what I was being asked or told to do. And I realized this wasn't me not being a team player and all those other things that I had told myself. I was always meant to be an entrepreneur and I just had to listen better.
mm,
That is it. The ice cream shop story by Mr. Wonderful.
yeah. Uh, so what I love about this, there's a few things I love about this. Okay. So in a second, I'm going to riff on this. I'm just going to spew out your 30-second story here. There's got to be a better way to say that, but still, what I love about this, let me just show some details. Is one, we're pretty clear on a transformation, at least at this point. If we pick these two words from small to opportunity, I mean, it's not alliteration. It's not C to, S to S, small to secure or something, but it's fine because these words work. They speak. And what's great is that we actually have a list of other words outside of this that you can use in any given scenario, Elizabeth. Now you are clear. You're like, yeah, I see exactly what I help people with. People who are stuck in perfection and overwhelm and fear, uncertainty, afraid, victim status. They're negative. They're playing small. I get that. I've been there for so much of my life. But now I experience gratitude, confidence, power, excitement, clarity, action, moving, opportunity. And so if you want that, but you're feeling this, I get it. Any of those, I've been there and I'm here to help you. Just like Kevin O'Leary speaking and describing the situation helped me shift. Right? So there's a person there that was helpful for you that you now get to put yourself in someone else's story and say, let me be that person for you.
Oh, I love that.
So significant when we start to turn this towards the audience, to have someone there. That's why I said, who was there at that turning point? Because it's so helpful to put yourself in the story, just like using yours. So if I was you, I would say, hey, I'm Elizabeth, and I am a real estate coach helping you find opportunity in every situation. Because for so much of my life, I didn't see opportunity. I just did what was expected of me. And quite honestly, I was playing small, trying to live up to everybody else's expectations and not really know what the opportunity was out there for me. And then just a few years ago, I was at this conference where the speaker, Kevin O'Leary himself, was on stage describing what it meant and felt like to be an entrepreneur. This idea that you're not meant to work for anyone else. And I realized that over all these years and all the difficulty that I'd faced being an employee was actually just because I was playing small. But now that I've opened up my own business and allow myself my freedom and to follow any opportunity in front of me, I'm helping business owners like yourself do exactly the same thing. And so if you're afraid, you feel small, you feel like you don't know where to go next, I've been there and I'm here to help you so that you feel more confident than ever and grateful for every opportunity in front of you.
Wow. You are so gifted.
Did that feel
That was
true?
amazing. Yeah, like I have goosebumps.
Yes. The chat's
That
loving
was
it.
amazing.
I love this. They're feeling it. True story, right?
Yeah,
So there's
100% true, but put together in a way that has so much more impact in such a short period of time.
right. And I think that's it. So this is the simplicity of the story. And even that, I would say, great, but we can boil that down to when someone says, how do you help people? What's your story? What's your why? Then you show up and you can say, my why is helping people see opportunity out there
Mhm.
because too many of us are playing small. That's
Oh,
why I do what I do.
I love that.
And
And
so for those listening and watching, I hope that you're seeing the same expansive opportunity for you, that you can put in all those details. But ultimately, when you clarify that transformation, that is the why that guides you through the work that you do and all the processes and all the stuff that you're doing ultimately to help people transform, because that's what we want more than anything.
that was amazing. Thank you so much, Alex. Um, you
You
know, one of the
okay?
things yeah, I'm literally like thinking about how I'll communicate differently with that level of clarity for myself as a
Mm,
business owner and entrepreneur. And you know, one of the best things is to share that it doesn't feel like I'm selling myself. If you have to tell people you have integrity, it's a problem. It makes people second guess it. If I have to tell people all my good qualities, people don't necessarily believe it, but that
wow.
resonates.
And if I can jump on that, I think it feels like that because you're easily and freely sharing your shortcomings, as it were, but the barriers that you face. And so as soon as you do that, we're all in the room saying like, oh my goodness, you're kidding, you too? Whew, okay. I thought she was perfect, you know? But like for
Yeah.
everyone in this room to see, everyone that knows you, to hear you admit to these things, they're all going like, wow, look at everything she's overcome. And so you just get to say, yeah, I did feel like that, but now I feel like this. Let's let you off the leash a little bit.
Love it. Debbie's saying
Very
she's
good.
never seen me speechless. Debbie's known
Yeah,
me a very long time.
it's good. That's high praise.
Yes, it is. You
So,
guys are amazing. Thank you.
excellent. I do see there's a question. Do we want to go here for a little bit just while we've got this?
Yes, we can. If you guys, if sorry, if anyone has any questions, feel free to add them to the chat box. Someone said, "What if there is no transformation point?"
Yeah, that was a great question. And, my first answer is to just respond and say, well, like it's just not possible
Hmm.
because who you are is not who you were. That's We know that. That's any given day, any given minute. There's actual, like, to get really nitty gritty with this, there's transformation. Your body is literally not as it is now what it was 3 minutes ago. There's cells dying and living. I mean, to get really down to that. So then on a bigger picture, to say that I haven't changed or there isn't a point that I can draw into, that's what I want to zone in on. That a moment is so much more significant than the moment. And so when you look at a moment, you can say, well, yeah, there wasn't that big point that shift. I don't remember a conference where a speaker showed up. I don't remember surviving a crash. I don't like that stuff. I can't zone in on that. And that's where I would invite you, if you're thinking this, like, what is the transformation point? You know, think about a therapy session that you had last week. Think about a dinner party you were at where you left different.
Yeah.
A comment that a friend made that led you towards doing the work that you're doing now. What is it? There's something in there. There's some seemingly insignificant transformation point that we can always find and draw out. And then we lean on that. But again, to let go of the weight of that and say, it's actually not as important. If you know what the transformation is, then that moment becomes a lot less weighty to find that.
Mm, I like that.
Does that
That's
help?
really insightful. Yeah. And it actually ties in well to another question someone asked. I've always felt very confident and clear on who I am. I'm currently going through a life-changing event that makes me today uncertain on who I will be next. Any advice?
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Bruce. That's amazing. I mean, it's the good news is you're not alone, right? I mean, we're all there. We don't know who we're going to be next, which is kind of why I love this process, because we get to this point, we say who I am, not who I will be. Now, there is a process for that. That is something that I like to do with this, is create a story here and start with who I am and end with who I will be and just fill in the blanks. Kind of a manifesting process if you want to. But for you today, don't go there. Come back here and say, well, what I do know is who I am today. And so if you're saying I'm going through life change, then you get to say that. You say, this is who I am today, shifting careers, shifting jobs. But at my best, I feel so peaceful about this.
Mm.
Um, at my best, I feel confident, right, about this, excited. So you lock in on those words and say, because I also know that when resistance shows up and I feel really scared, I feel chaotic and I feel out of my mind. I feel scarce, right? And then you get to go, but that's not who I am. Who I am is peaceful. Who I am is confident. And so I don't know what role it's going to be going forward. We'll go with that. But I do know that in those moments when I feel chaotic or confused, I know that's not where I need to stay, because who I am is actually this best version of myself that feels peaceful, feels clear, feels confident, and can move forward. So when we do this story up to this point, all that we have is what we've lived through. And then we get to carry that forward each day and say, all right, I know who I was, but I know who I am. that transformation is going to allow me to go forward today and face whatever's coming.
That was outstanding. Alex, this is without a doubt one of the best webinars I've ever had the pleasure of hosting.
Wow, that is amazing. I'll receive that. And I'm so grateful to be here. This has been such a joy. I love the active chat. Then I think it speaks highly of your community and who you've got coming in here. They want to be a part of this and want to learn. So thank you.
Thank you. Can you share if people would like to, I know you do have a coaching program. Would you like to share some info on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got my group coaching program. It's called StoryArc Sessions, and we have a call every Tuesday, and it is live coaching. It is just like this, like I did with Elizabeth here. I'll teach something for 20 minutes, and then the rest of the 90-minute call is what's your question about storytelling and speaking to develop your skills and your strategies, and I'm here to help you through that. We just actually hosted something yesterday in that call where the members that were present got an opportunity to share a story that they've been working on. So everybody got 5 minutes. We called it a story slam. And then we just poured into each other and celebrated and critiqued, but in the best way. And it was truly a magical experience. So if you want some sort of coaching with me, then that's the best container to get that. And you can go to Alexstreet.ca to find that.
That's outstanding. And
And I'll
I
actually
have
do
to
this.
congratulate. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and then I've just got, if you want to go now, I mean, there's the process that we got here. I've got that on a sheet, like just a PDF at alexstreet.ca/30s to help you find your 30-second story. So all the work we did today, you can go there and find that as well, as a free download.
Wonderful. And thank you, Alex, for your time and your insight and your expertise. And I want to congratulate everyone who came today. And I've hosted a lot of webinars. And in my experience, the tangible ones that, Cherry Chan, 300 people register for those webinars. Everybody wants to learn accounting. Everybody wants to learn about investment models and tactical things. And it tells you what an opportunity there is to learn about these softer skills because so many less people are focusing on these. It is your opportunity to set yourself apart and to really be able to shine. So congratulations to all of you who signed up. Mary Beth will be preparing the recording and sending it out to everyone who attended by the end of the week, or actually to everyone who registered by the end of the week. It'll also be on my YouTube channel. I'm just going to do a quick screen share right here. If you are not a member of my YouTube channel or have not subscribed, please consider doing so. Just Elizabeth Kelly Consulting, and all of my webinars that I've hosted in the last 4 years are all there. There's all kinds of insights and goodies and opportunities for you. And then here's where you can find Alex and I encourage you, I know every single person here right now is probably not more than 2 feet from their phone. So Alex always has great stuff that he shares. Grab your phone, follow Alex on Instagram. Give me a follow as well if you're not already following along. Alex, are you posting 3 stories a day like a Dan Martell?
You bet.
Um, yeah,
Of
okay.
course.
So
Yep. Stories or posts. It's I can't get enough of that wonderful stuff.
perfect. So Alex and I are both committed as part of a coaching program that we are in, and we share what's going on. We share the good, the bad, the amazing stuff that happens and some of the challenging stuff too. So you will
Yep.
always have honest communication from us. Thank you very much, everybody, for spending your lunch hour with us today. Too bad for those who didn't sign up. Now you
Yeah.
have a story and they don't. Absolutely. As you can feel, I'm sure you felt it today. Storytelling really helps. It helps build relationships. It helps build connection. Alex, thank you again for your time. Thank you, everyone, for being part of this community and for making it the awesome space to learn and grow that it actually is.
Thank you for having me. And thank you, everyone, for showing up. Such a pleasure.
You're welcome.
Go tell a better story.
Have a fantastic week, everyone. I'll see y'all again soon.